Welcome to today's Explainer. Let's dive right in and connect the dots on a massive daily news briefing that just dropped. We've got a ton of ground to cover, from escalating geopolitical tensions to Silicon Valley earnings. And honestly, it all tells one incredible, cohesive story.
Think about this for a second. What do a Middle East blockade, a tropical storm slamming into Louisiana, and Google's latest AI earnings all have in common? On the surface, military strikes, tropical storm Bertha, and tech sector cash flows seem completely unrelated. But there's actually a massive hidden link tying them all together today.
That common thread? It's a sudden, violent collision with hard physical reality. Across literally every sector of the news today, we're seeing this overarching theme of physical constraints. Whether we're talking about geography, heavy hardware, or natural resources, we are witnessing the stark return of scarcity pricing. Let's break down exactly how this is playing out, starting right on the global stage.
Over in the Middle East, geopolitical escalation is moving at breakneck speed. The briefing outlines a 12th consecutive night of U.S. military strikes against Iran. Then President Trump threatened retaliation against Iranian infrastructure if commercial shipping gets attacked. In response to that, Iran declared the Strait of Hormuz closed to uncoordinated vessels. And then a tanker explosion along a suspected mined route just fundamentally changed the game. We're moving away from intermittent attacks straight toward a sustained closure, because, well, even after a ceasefire, detecting and clearing naval mines takes serious time.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer scale. The Pentagon estimates the cost of this conflict is $37.5 billion so far. Plus, they're currently asking Congress for an additional $87.6 billion just to sustain operations. That is a massive amount of real capital being burned in a physical theater.
And this local escalation, it's rapidly engineering a global supply shock. Before all this kicked off, forecasters expected a comfortable global oil surplus of about 1.6 million barrels per day in 2026. But with simultaneous threats at the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb, meaning the primary Gulf route and its main western alternative are both at risk, that forecast has violently flipped. Analysts are now projecting a massive deficit of 1.5 million barrels per day.
So what does this actually mean for you? How does this physical persistence hit your wallet? Well, this massive supply constraint pushed Brent crude toward $98 a barrel this morning. That keeps U.S. gas prices stubbornly above $4 a gallon at the pump. And since fuel and transportation costs cascade through the whole economy and reignite inflation, markets are literally pricing in a possible Federal Reserve rate hike this September. The physical world is completely forcing the financial world's hand here.
Speaking of the financial world, let's pivot to big tech for a minute, because they are slamming into their own physical bottleneck. Take Alphabet, for example. Google Cloud revenue surged 82% as enterprise demand for AI skyrocketed. But that commercial success comes at a really steep physical cost, leaving them with negative $5.9 billion in free cash flow. It's actually their first quarterly shortfall on that measure. So yeah, commercial success in AI is causing massive cash burn.
We're seeing the exact same trend of expensive validation over at Tesla. They hit record expansion with roughly 480,000 vehicle deliveries. But, and here's the kicker, their automotive margins declined to 16.3%, and they burned through $1.1 billion in free cash flow. Why? Because they're sacrificing those margins to finance a massive physical shift. They're literally building out the heavy infrastructure required for a physical AI company, mass-producing custom chips and rolling out Optimus robots. Transitioning from digital software to physical reality is just incredibly expensive.
The crucial point here is that AI isn't just some magic software floating in the ether. It requires a massive physical footprint. We're talking sprawling data centers, vast amounts of land, custom chips, extreme power capacity, and incredibly advanced networking. To fund this integrated physical AI stack, Alphabet actually had to raise its 2026 capital spending budget to a staggering $195 billion to $205 billion. To put that into perspective, that exceeds the annual economic output of many entire countries. It's just wild.
So when we tie all these daily micro-trends together, we are looking at the absolute return of physical accountability. It's not just investors paying more for capital or vulnerable shipping lanes disrupting global logistics. It's the literal environment crashing into our infrastructure. Just look at Tropical Storm Bertha bringing coastal surges, severe heat, and massive power outages to Louisiana today. It's a perfect example of what the briefing calls combined vulnerability. Scarcity pricing is back for sure, because physical limits are very, very real.
Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with. How are you preparing for a world where our digital ambitions are bottlenecked by physical limits? From $98 oil dictating interest rates to billion-dollar cash burns for AI data centers, the digital future clearly belongs to those who can master the physical present. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep these physical constraints in mind as you navigate the news this week.